This washstand was in bad shape. I'm going to show you how you can restore an old washstand or dresser that looks like this and make it look amazing, even with damage, using DIY paint and a little patience and TLC. I sanded the entire piece with a power sander, 220 grit sandpaper, and then finished the top with 320 grit. So this is an old piece. I decided to use 1 coat of DIY Paint Salvation Solution. It's a stain blocker, which will help that old varnish from coming through any paint you put on top of it. It's a great way to ensure that your piece is not going to bleed through. Now that we've prepped it, time for the fun part. I use my continuous mister with just water, and I'm only putting a little bit of DIY paint and black velvet paint on here. It is an all-natural paint, and a little goes a long ways. So when you're doing a dresser top or drawers like this, I like to use long, even brush strokes. I'm using the DIY Paint Multitasker brush. It holds so much paint. As you can see, I have just spread out what I already had, and now I'm going to put a little bit in a cup and work on those cabinet doors. When doing cabinet doors, I like to outline it first, then work on the inside. Then I go over the edge of the top. I'm going to repeat this on the other side. I probably ended up using total of about 4 ounces of paint because all DIY paint is really highly pigmented. Little goes a long ways, especially with the black. It takes so much pigment to make this, so little is needed. Instead of dipping your brush back in after you've been painting for a little while, just spray your brush with water and you will get the maximum amount of there. You can see on this piece, I'm going all the way up and all the way down. This will ensure a much smoother finish. If your paint looks a little thick, use a continuous mister on it again, like I just did, but also just feel how it's not gliding, then you want to just add a little bit of water, and it will really take you only a few minutes to get a flat piece like this done. I have a whole garage full of projects. I find a lot of things for free on Facebook Marketplace. I also find stuff dumpster diving. I have a 3-part how-to series on my blog of how to find the best stuff for free. Let your friends know that you are always in the market for free stuff, but be careful, don't let it take over your life. The paint is totally dry and it's time to smooth out the surface and slightly distress. I'm using a piece of 320 grit sandpaper, and I like to fold it in thirds, and then that way it makes it easy to just use each side. The paint will come off in a really fine dust, so it's definitely scuffing up the surface, but once we get that clear wax on, it's going to be amazing. I like to just take my hand over the piece after I've sanded it to make sure it feels really smooth. Then when you're done, just use a shop rag and wipe off the excess dust. You can see that it's just barely damp, but there's a lot of dust that comes off, especially because this color has a ton of pigment in it. I also just like to run my hand on it to make sure it's smooth. I don't recommend wearing your cute Anthropologie overalls when you do this because they will get dirty. All right, let's take care of that gorgeous top. It was so damaged to start with, and I sanded it smooth. I finished with a 320 grit sandpaper. Now I'm using DIY Paint Dark and Decrepit Patina. So I sprayed the surface with water and I'm applying it with a brush, and I'm just doing a little bit at a time. But once I get all of it covered, I took a shop rag and I'm lightly going over the top just to pick up any excess. Then I'm going to go around the edges with what's left on that rag and make sure that I got all the edges, and use my brush to kind of go over it again. So this wood is really old. It didn't all absorb the same, and that's okay. Time to really bring this paint to life. I'm using all natural DIY paint clear wax. I love the smell of it. There's no chemicals, there's no naphtha, there's nothing toxic in it, so you can use it inside and it creates a beautiful finish. I'm using a waxing brush to really work it into the paint. You can see the difference there. It looks wet. If you're doing layers of paint, it will definitely penetrate through all layers, and it might even look like you ruined it, but that's okay because once it dries, it's going to dry to a soft haze, and we're going to buff it. So you just want to make sure it's all covered. This will dry in about an hour or 2 hours on a cold day. On a hot day, maybe give it a day or even overnight if it's real humid where you live. But it will dry, and then we will buff, and it's going to be just perfect. The top is so smooth. Because Dark and Decrepit Patina is a top coat, it has a protective finish. I like to put an additional layer of wax on because if someone spills something on it, it will create a watertight surface. When it comes to drawers, you can choose to line them, or in this case, the wood was really dry but lovely, so I decided to use the wax in there too, and now it creates this beautiful finish. Wax is dry. You can use this buffing brush. I will put my Amazon link below. It is so easy and goes so fast. You can use a rag, or there are some really good hand brushing ones on the market. For big pieces, I always use this with my cordless drill, and I can finish a piece in no time. Always do the touch test after I've buffed it. I want to make sure there are no sticky spots. I keep a lint-free rag nearby to get in the corners and just maybe one final wipe over. I really like it to just be glowy and perfect. I love a good furniture makeover. Can you believe that I went from this bad top to this gorgeous stain top? It's amazing what a little TLC and some DIY paint can do to refresh something that was literally bound for the trash. I hope I inspired you to find your old furniture to make over. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. I have links to all the products I used in the description below. Please come hang out with me at my blog, redointeriors.com, and on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok of the same name. Thank you so much for watching. Happy creating, Karen.